Hey there, you want to check out how I made this cool textured fondant cake, which is fake. The theme is gamer, soccer ball, and basketball. Let's go! So the first thing you do is prep your styrofoam cakes by covering it in vegetable shortening. Next, we want to make our fondant tops. A really cool tip is to mold out in the shape that you want to create. And so you see I molded out a circle because I'm trying to create a circle. Texture time. This is actually my favorite part of decorating fondant cakes. You can see that I'm using the texture mat. I place that over the fondant and then I'm using a fondant roller. I actually suggest using a fondant smoother instead of a roller. Next, we are going to create our fondant tops, and another cool trick or tip is to roll out enough that you will need for 2 tops, just the way that I'm doing it in this video. This saves you time from having to roll out individual fondant pieces to achieve the same thing. So you can see that I use the styrofoam cake as a guide. That way I don't have too much fondant that I would need to trim off. All right, so all I'm doing here is just placing the fondant tops on the styrofoam, which I already covered with a generous amount of vegetable shortening. I prefer using the Crisco brand. And the goal here is to have your fondant flush against your styrofoam cake so that there isn't any excess, as you can see that I am doing in the video. Voila! There you have it. So I'm just repeating the same process for the top tier. We're done with the bottom tier, at least the top, and now we're doing the same process with the top tier. Here we go. So our tops are done. All right, so next we're creating the fondant panel piece that will go around the cake. And because it's going to be rectangular, you can see that I molded out a rectangular shape, or molded it out before rolling straight out with my rolling pin. And then just the way that we apply texture to our tops, it's the same way that I am using that texture mat and going over the mat with my rolling pin. And what this does is it creates an imprint of the texture that you have on the texture mat. It's beautiful. The texture is a velour type texture. It's important to measure your fondant pieces. You want it to be sufficient to cover the entire cake. It's fine if you have excess, but you don't want it to be short. So next we're just going to wrap the panel piece over our styrofoam cake that has been covered in vegetable shortening. You want to make it as aligned as possible. With this cake, I was a little bit short at the top, as you can see, but it's fine. I made it work. So you want to make sure that you get it smooth. There are no air bubbles. And then you cut off the excess fondant right at the back, and this is what creates the seam. It's really helpful to use a ruler, as you can see that I'm doing in this video, just to help in achieving a straight seam line. This is typically the back of your cake. And you can see you can just use your fingers to smooth out the seam so that it molds in and you're not even able to see that line. Fondant is really forgiving, which is one of the reasons that I love to work with fondant. All right, so the next thing that we do is we trim off any excess fondant at the top. I prefer to use a razor blade. Some people like to use a really sharp knife, but using a razor blade works for me. And I am repeating the process, this time with the bottom tier, wrapping that fondant piece around my styrofoam cake, ensuring that it's smooth, there are no bubbles, making sure that it aligns properly, using my ruler again at the back to create a straight line for the seam. As you can see, also taking out any excess fondant, smoothing that together. And then again, cutting off excess fondant at the top using a sharp blade. An important tip when you are trimming off the excess fondant at the top, go slowly. Don't go straight into the exact point where you want the edge to start. Start slowly and work your way down. And there we have it. Now we are putting the top tier onto the bottom tier. And here I am using a regular steamer to give it that shine. So for those of you that use cornstarch, this also takes the cornstarch away, or if you use powdered sugar to roll out your fondant. I actually use vegetable shortening to roll out my fondant. However, I still use this steamer as it just gives the cake a really cool shine. It also does other things, which I will show you in a second. Steaming cakes is super therapeutic. It's something that you can just see yourself doing for hours and hours. Now, steaming your fondant can also work really well with real cakes, not just fake or show cakes. So this is a really good way to give your fondant that really cool gloss or shine. Look at how glossy and beautiful that looks. All right, so I am putting on my acrylic toppers. And another cool thing about using a steamer is that you are able to attach your acrylic toppers onto the fondant easily. You can see here I'm not using any frosting, any royal icing, because the steam makes the fondant tacky, your pieces stick. So next I wanted a little splash of gold. And so I have gold dust mixed with vodka, and I'm using this 99-cent spray bottle that I purchased from Walmart. And it gives it that really cool splash effect. Oh wow, look at that. It's already looking good. So I found this cool gamer controller on Amazon, and all I'm doing here is just attaching it to the cake. Look at that. It comes in white and it also comes in black. I like the white with the gold because it creates this really nice contrast. There's this contrast with the black and the white controller. I put a little bit of frosting at the back of the controller just to adhere it. I'm not sure that I needed to do that, but just to give that extra security, if you will, that it would stick and it wouldn't fall off, I chose to do that. And this is what the cake looks like with the gaming controller. And if that was the theme, I think this works perfectly. I love it. But because this cake was for my son's 10th birthday and he loves basketball and soccer as well as playing video games, I decided to add some basketball toppers as well as some soccer ball toppers. I got these from Amazon. They are not edible. So this is something that you want to let your customers or clients know what is edible and what is not edible on the cake. And I'm using some buttercream to attach the toppers to the cake. I also found that sticking a toothpick in, because these are squishy, works really well as well and would save you on your buttercream. So that's certainly another option that you have when you are trying to attach these inedible ball toppers. So I'm just clustering them together, trying to see how it works. You can see the cluster. I also added some gold ball toppers. Because there was a touch of gold, I just wanted to be consistent with that, and it gives it that glam feel. So there we have it. Look at that texture. I love it. I think this cake came together really nicely. Let me know what you think. This is my very first YouTube video. I hope this was helpful. Please comment, like, subscribe. Thank you.